In the twilight of his life, Benjamin Franklin said, "I have lived a long time, sir, a long time. And the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of men. And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid?" It's important to remember that during times of great upheaval, that if God governs the affairs of nations and kingdoms, we can certainly trust him with this current COVID-19 pandemic. The background for the new series we're going to begin today comes from the book of Philippians, and this illustrates God's principle of divine providence. Philippi was a city that is now in Greece. Philip II began to rule the kingdom of Macedonia in 359 BC. His empire at that time was about the size of Maryland. In order to expand his kingdom, he knew he had to modernize his army, but to do that he needed a great deal of money. He recognized the strategic value of the neighboring region to the south. Through its mountains lay the only natural trade route from east to west. And inside of those mountains were deposits of gold. Philip knew the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. So in 356 BC, Philip annexed the territory, established a garrison there to control the mines, and he humbly renamed the town after himself, Philippi. Philip worked the mines so vigorously that he secured more than 95,000 pounds of gold per year. To put this in perspective, gold is currently trading at about $1,600 an ounce. At today's prices, he was raking in about $2.3 billion a year. He used this money to modernize his army, and he conquered all of Greece. In addition to conquering Philippi in 356, this was a great year for two other reasons. One, his racehorses won the Olympic Games, and two, his first son was born. He named him Alexander. Because nothing but the best would do for his new prince, Philip hired the most intelligent man of the ancient world to be his son's private tutor, a man named Aristotle. Alexander, known to history as Alexander the Great, took his father's army, his wealth, and his wisdom and conquered the whole known world, Hellenizing it as he went. He forced the conquered to read, write, and conduct commerce in Greek. If Philip and Alexander had not gone east, Paul and the gospel could not have gone west. 200 years later, this region fell to Rome. And by this time, the gold mines were depleted, and Philippi was nothing more than a small settlement on the edge of the empire until a monumental event took place in 42 BC, the assassination of Julius Caesar. This event ripped the Roman Empire in two. On one side, Brutus and Cassius, the men who led the assassination, they were trying to restore the Roman Republic. On the other side, Mark Antony and Octavian were fighting to avenge Caesar and to keep Rome an empire. The ensuing war pitted the greatest army of the ancient world against itself. And in the autumn of 42 BC, an epic two-day battle was fought outside the city of Philippi. The outcome would shape the entire course of human history. The battle lasted 2 days and cost 16,000 men their lives, including Brutus and Cassius. The victors, Octavian and Mark Antony, divided the empire in two, and they co-ruled the empire until Mark Antony became infatuated with a woman. Not just any woman, Cleopatra. The Egyptian queen had a very powerful navy. Antony had a very powerful army, and they went to war against Octavian. The war raged on for many months until an epic naval battle fought off the coast of Philippi snuffed out the rebellion. And the defeat led Antony and Cleopatra to commit suicide, leaving Octavian the last man standing. He returned to Rome as a hero, and the Roman Senate changed Octavian's name to Caesar Augustus, the same Caesar Augustus who later decreed that all the world should be taxed, thereby forcing a Jewish carpenter named Joseph and his very pregnant wife Mary to travel over 100 miles to be registered in the city of Bethlehem, ensuring that Jesus Christ would be born in the proper city to fulfill the prophecies. Yet in spite of all this amazing history, the Philippians are not remembered because of the founder of the city, Philip II of Macedon, or his famous son, Alexander the Great, nor the famous battles that were fought outside the city walls or off its coast, but rather because one Roman prisoner named Paul, sitting on death row, wrote a letter of gratitude to a church who supported him during his incarceration. How's that for prison ministry? If God could orchestrate all that history to bring his plan about, he certainly is big enough to handle the current COVID-19 crisis.